Week 4, Patterned Text. How do patterned texts help bilingual learners produce sophisticated, fluent writing? Before we delve into patterned text, let's take stock of what we have done in weeks 1 through 3. So far, we've looked at the language experience approach, types of shared reading, and this week we'll look at patterned text. We call these practices language rich because they use authentic texts and language connected to real context, and because there are many opportunities for meaningful and lively conversations throughout. Reading floats on a sea of talk. All of these practices also provide a significant amount of scaffolding in terms of teacher support for reading. The practices would work with bilingual students who are at beginning levels of English proficiency, as well as those at intermediate or advanced levels. This continuum depicts the amount of teacher support required for each activity. A 10 shows an activity where teachers are providing maximum support. As you can see, most of the activities in this module require a moderate to significant amount of teacher support. However, we are always working towards developing independent learners. The scaffolds are intended to be temporary. As you are experimenting with these practices, consider ways to continually assess when you can remove supports and students can succeed independently. One last point to consider. Practices for readers do not focus only on reading. Promising practices include doing activities in the real world, creating original text to read, and speaking and talking about many life experiences and texts. This week, we look at ways to use pattern text to support reading and writing development of struggling readers. Pattern texts repeat a certain language pattern throughout the text. The repetition of the language pattern is a natural scaffold for bilingual learners. It gives readers a chorus to return to throughout the reading. Pattern texts come at all reading levels, from kindergarten to poems that they use in high school. For example, The Important Book by Margaret Wise has an easy and highly adaptable pattern. Each page talks about one item, saying what is most important about that item, lists 3 details, and returns to the most important thing about that item. For example, the important thing about the sky is that it is always there. It is true that it is blue and high and full of clouds and made of air. But the important thing about the sky is that it is always there. The important thing about a spoon is that you eat with it. It's like a little shovel. You hold it in your hand. You can put it in your mouth. It isn't flat. It's hollow, and it spoons things up. But the important thing about a spoon is that you eat with it. With pattern text, you do not stop with just reading or responding to the text. The important step is to move students to writing their own original version of the pattern text. You may be tempted to move directly from reading and discussing the book to having students write their own pattern text right away. This might be okay. But generally, students will learn more about language and create more elaborate texts if you follow the gradual release of responsibility model. So here's a suggested routine. You read the selected text multiple times, explain, discuss the model, then you compose collaboratively with students. You read and reread the new text, and then have students create a text with a pair, and then reread and read the new text, and then they're ready to create on their own. You could vary this routine, but oftentimes readers who are struggling with reading will need that level of support. There's a lot of content variations that you can use with pattern text. For example, you could do an important book about math symbols. The most important thing about the equal symbol is blah, blah, blah. And then you go through and do the same exact thing with all the different math symbols. You can do it in science, social studies. Poetry is another example of pattern text. Here is an example of the popular I am poem. The I am poem gives students sentence starters for each line, and then they just fill in with the prompt. The I am poem allows students to produce a poem that sounds deep and sophisticated, even when they have lower levels of English language. Just like the other pattern texts, there are countless ways to connect the I am poem to the content areas. For example, you could make it personal autobiographical, but you could use it from the point of view of a character in a book. You could use it from the point of view of people in history. You can even have an I am poem from an inanimate object, like the bus that Rosa Parks rode, or an electric car, or the number pi. So, your next steps are you're going to read more about pattern texts or poetry, and then you're going to give it a try. Thank you.